Quite grimy, mud flying in my face, but what can you do at this point? Now, in the last installment of the R36 restoration series, we finally made a start on that slight rust issue that's been plaguing the whole rear end of the car. I opted to drop the complete subframe assembly as a whole. This is comprised of the 3 arms on each side, the differential, drive shafts, brakes, hubs, and also the anti-roll bar. Once it was on the workbench, I began detaching all of these various components to see what was salvageable, and essentially just making a shopping list of what was needed for the next steps. I'm not gonna lie, there's definitely a lot more involved than I initially anticipated, but I guess that's why most of these restorations out there seem to take for ages. But anyway, whilst we're waiting for bits to arrive, we've still got a bunch to do, mainly in regards to addressing the rust on the chassis itself. Being a 2008 car based in the UK with nearly 190,000 miles on it, there was always going to be a chance of some corrosion. The roads over here are heavily salted throughout the winter, and this thing's clearly spent a lot of time on them. So yeah, that's the plan for today's video: cleaning, grinding, treating and coating the underside of this magnificent VR6 Passat. But before we begin inhaling any dust, I'd like to take a minute to thank our long-time channel sponsors, Car Vertical. Now, if you're not already familiar with Car Vertical, essentially it's a website that allows you to obtain a full vehicle check on any car. All you've got to do is enter your registration or the VIN. Now, as per usual, I have got an example report to demonstrate how all of this works, and this week we're going to be taking a look at this BMW M4. Now, the top of the report is essentially a snapshot of the vehicle you searched for. So in the case of this M4, we've got no problems in regards to any previous thefts or the mileage being tampered with over the years, but it does have an exclamation mark next to the financial legal status and also the damage icon. The report tells us that it was marked down as an insurance write-off, and it was actually damaged twice. It was classified as a category B write-off, which is unrepairable. You can't put this back on the road, you can only break it for parts. And if we head over to the photo section, we can see the extent of the damage. I mean, from the first photo it looks pretty decent, definitely repairable. Then you head over to the next one and you can see the whole thing's completely obliterated. Interior is pretty decent, but then you realize it's only done 4,000 miles, so barely running. But if miraculously this thing got repaired and a seller was trying to claim that it's all good, with this report you know to avoid it, because a category B cannot be put back on the road. Right, so there we have it. That's Car Vertical in a nutshell. Nice and straightforward to use, and it's definitely saved me some hassle over the years, especially when you're buying cars sight unseen, like this R36 for example, or the TTRS donor car, or numerous other examples. Now, I have got a little incentive for you folks. If you go click my link down below in the description, then use the code TRH, what that'll do is it'll save you 10% off your next report. But yeah, as always, big thanks to Car Vertical for their continued support of the channel. I think it's finally time we should get to work on this R36. Right, to kick things off, I decided it's best we get that fuel tank out the way. I initially wasn't going to drop it, hence why it was left alone in the last video, but since then I've spotted a few specks of rust behind it and I could have let this slide. So rather than coating around it and potentially locking in any moisture, we'll just do the job properly once and for all. The process is pretty simple, it's just a bit cumbersome. First, you need to fold up the rear bench or remove it, which will give access to the various electrical plugs for the in-tank pump and sender units. All looks very nice and clean, which is a great sign. Even back here, like, there's not much dirt as opposed to what you'd expect for a near 200,000 mile family car. Got some more plugs back there. Then there's also a fuel line that needs disconnecting. Not that much fuel came out, to be fair. Then it's time to stick your head in the wheel arch, where you'll find a couple of bolts at the top for the filler neck. Be careful with this though, as the R36 does have a ground wire attached to this bracket. And from this onto the bolts holding up the tank itself. There's a few obvious ones around the perimeter, and then you've got the main metal straps where one bolt was conveniently missing. Make sure you've disconnected this long white plastic pipe as well that goes from the charcoal canister. I initially thought it runs in parallel to the filler neck, but you guessed it, it doesn't. So it ended up being a bit of a faff trying to undo a little clip with a pick whilst this bulky tank was in midair. Right, so now that that's all out the way, we can finally assess the mud and spiderweb situation that's likely been accumulating for 10 plus years. And I know what you're thinking, how on earth are you going to clean all this mess indoors? Well, here's your answer. £30 foldable swimming pool off eBay, designed for a dog, and also a very long hose pipe that reaches the tap outside. On the product front, I've decided to keep it very simple. Multiple rounds with some cheap TFI and a weed spray should do the job. All right, let's get this in position. Never thought I'd be putting a swimming pool underneath a Passat, but here we are. Not a detailer, but I don't think detailers use this anyway. More like your local car wash. Right, so letting all of this soak at the minute, mainly the underside. We're going to get into the wheel arches shortly, but here's the hose attachment. It's just the right length, so it's done the job. And look, inside, no drains or anything, but we'll empty this when we're done. Quite grimy.
Getting mud flying in my face, but what can you do at this point?
So it's literally a rinse and repeat process. I used an old paintbrush to agitate the dirt and ended up going over everything maybe 3 or 4 times. It took around half a day and I even learnt what colour the car was.
Look how blue that is. Bulk of the dirt is all of this grime here on the edges. Not bad. Quite a bit of mud here. Right, a bunch of this should come off. Yeah, look at that. It's blue again.
And if you're wondering how much water I used, here's the end result. Straight down the drain with a nice view of the sunset. Now before I go ahead and show you the progress I've made on the R36, make sure you go ahead and click subscribe if you haven't already done so. I've got a bunch more content planned this year on the Passat. We've also got the Caddy RS as well, and I have got a few other projects in mind also. We're really close to that 200k subs goal that's set for this year, and I love all the feedback you guys have been giving on these more project style videos. So yeah, it'd be great to have you on board. Right, so what I ended up doing after giving it that basic wash was this whole section here, I basically blasted it with brake cleaner, because what I was finding that there was dirt just stuck along the seam sealer here, and yeah, I wanted it completely spotless. The irony of dropping the fuel tank is I thought there'd be rust hidden behind it, and there's basically zero. I was thinking, looking at these specs here, that there'd be more of that behind there, but it looks like it's completely immaculate. But one thing about cleaning it is that we've established that it's not like, for example, this whole section that's rusty. It's like happened in a weird pattern almost, and even the sills here, I thought this whole section was rusty, but it's just this inner bit there. It's consistent with the driver's side as well, so yeah, very insightful for sure. I did see a few of you mention dry ice blasting in the last video's comment section. Believe me, I'd love to do all of that. I've been following the stuff in America for a few years now, but we're not exactly set up for all of that just yet. We're working with the basic tools. As you can see, I haven't even got a cabinet yet. But all will come in good time, and maybe a project in the future will do some dry ice blasting. But for now, I'm happy with this rough finish. Now, as I mentioned at the end of part 2, this whole rust treatment and prevention stuff is all brand new to me. I'm basically giving it a go from scratch. I've just looked online on the various different tools and I've spoke to a couple of people. But the main idea we want to do from this point onwards is to grind all of that back, and for that I'm going to use a drill and also a wire brush attachment. So the idea essentially from what I've seen is you just go around all of these specks of rust, or in this case this whole panel, and just clean off all the flaking bits, and then once that's done we're going to apply a rust converter. I'll show you what I've gone for shortly once my package from eBay arrives, but in the meantime let's crack on with getting some of that rust removed. Right, so I stuck a 5-amp battery in the drill and got to work, and straight away realised how labour intensive this part of the job is. It's like a constant battle between going for the perfect finish, finding new rust spots, and then also trying not to destroy the seam sealer. So you get the idea. See how there was a bit of rust there, now it's just bare metal. I alternated between the various wire brush attachments that I had and made my way around the driver's side wheel arch. You do get the hang of it eventually, but some places aren't always going to come out too well no matter what you do. These thin brackets are an example, but thankfully they don't seem too important to the structure of the car. Now, in addition to all the obvious bits of rust, you may have noticed I've used a drill on a few extra bits of paint, and that's because when you look up close you can actually see the rust starting to come through. So the goal is to basically get it sorted before it does, because I don't want to cover it in underseal. So we try that there. You can see there's just rust beneath it. We've also spotted a bit up here, so if we get the attachment on that. I know it's not as accurate because I'm holding it with one hand, but you get the idea. You see? I applied the same logic to the passenger side wheel arch. It really is an eye-opener as to how much is hidden below the paint. Thankfully, it was all coming straight off and we didn't have any holes to worry about. This particular transformation right here was one of my favorites. Then it was time to head under the car and continue our pursuit of corrosion. I did end up taking it easy on the sills though, as I didn't fancy grinding away the entire bit of metal that's holding the car above my head. The various upper sections though, you ain't got to worry about as they're quite thick, and I even managed to uncover a few bits of rust behind the fuel tank area, which otherwise looked completely immaculate. Now, as you remember, this side is a lot worse, but let's see how much better we can get it. We're getting dust in my face, that's what we're getting. And here's the end result after inhaling plenty of dust. Yes, make sure you are wearing a respirator throughout all of this and the upcoming steps in this video. It may look like quite the mess, but I managed to remove a huge amount of surface rust. Credit where credit's due, this old Passat is made pretty well at the end of the day. Next, it was time to apply a rust converter. I opted for Genelite mainly because that's what was readily available and it had good reviews. I can assure you I've not got any skin in the rust converter game.
Right, so we're going to make a start now. I'm going to use a can first, and then if we run out, I'll use the other spray bottle. The whole idea is you spray it directly onto the rust, and it should start to change color in about 15 to 30 minutes.
It's pretty cool seeing it in action as it does work pretty fast and you can get into all of the places where the drill bit might not have reached. I ended up doing 2 coats, try not to go too crazy on the first one, and as a point of reference I used 1 can for this whole section.
Okay, so there we have it, that's the end result. Pretty much sprayed the full arches and all the underside as you saw. It's turned all of these rust spots into more of a kind of black color. That's apparently a stable surface for painting, so I'll take their word for it. This is about a day and a half worth of work. There's no real way to rush it at all, but hopefully the end result should be worth it. Passenger side is also looking great as well. All of these little inner bits there have all been converted. The strut tower top area, we grinded off most of that rust in any case. Now, even though we have converted a lot of that rust, it still is bare metal, so you need to protect it with something, otherwise it'll start rusting again in no time. So let me show you what the next steps are. Now, I did read up on a bunch of different items and various different processes, and I decided to go for the items from U-POL's Raptor range. So this is like a very thick bed liner kind of coating. It's finished in black, and it does seem to be one of the more recommended options. Of course, it is factory blue right now, but I'm not too fussed on retaining that. I mean, this all in here is not really blue anymore anyway. It's like a turquoise color. It is quite expensive though. I bought 6 cans of this off eBay and it was well over £100, and it's not like you get a lot in there. It's only 400 milliliters. But before we get to that, we need to apply some form of a primer. So I decided to keep it simple and go for the acid etch primer. So this is going to be applied directly to all of these rust spots. It's a form of protection. It's like a gray color, but that doesn't really matter because you're not going to see it towards the end once all of the main black coating is on. But yeah, that's the main gist of all the remaining products we're going to be using in this video. Hopefully it should look nice. Like I said, I've never done this before, so we'll see how it goes. I'll get the camera on a tripod. I need to put a fan on and probably open some windows and doors so we can get a bit of ventilation. But yeah, let's get cracking. Right, so after making excuses for my incoming amateur painting skills, I began firstly with degreasing all of the surfaces. I opted for this fast drying one from U-POL. Again, no particular reason. It just said it's designed for cleaning up before painting, and it was in stock at a local parts store about a mile away. Once that was done, I masked up the R36 a bit better so we don't ruin all that lovely blue paintwork. And then it was time for its first coat of primer. I tried to keep it as even as possible, but it's tricky when there's a lot of these inner edges that have rust on them, as sometimes the spray doesn't quite reach into every crevice unless you build it up somewhat. But yeah, I'd definitely say it's the most fun part of the job. It just feels like a reward for all that dust and dirt you inhale during the prep stages. Drying time is pretty quick as well, between 10 and 20 minutes, so make sure you go over everything with a second coat. This is where you start to get that thick primer look. Right, so I've left the second coat for around 25 minutes now, and I've got to say, folks, it's a nice feeling when you see all of this in one shade. It's all touch dry now. It's in this lovely light grey colour. I almost want to leave it this way because it looks so fresh. It's not by any means perfect, but I'm pretty chuffed with the results. You may have noticed I put these bolts in just to keep the threads all dry, even these little T20s as well. But yeah, it's time now we move on to our final stage, and that's applying the main protective Raptor coating. I've already gone ahead and taken the lid off one of them. Reason being, there's a little
device or activation tool in there that you need to put into the bottom of the can. You do need to shake it vigorously as well for around 2 minutes before you start. Seems pretty straightforward, but let's see how we get on. Similar to the primer, there was going to be 2 coats in total. The difference with Raptor though is that it sprays on quite thick, so it's quite easy to make errors and have more lumpy sections by accident. But as with most things, the more you get into a bit of a flow, the better you'll get, so practice is everything. The main downside that I found when applying this coating is that these cans do run out pretty quick, and then you've got to stop and then shake the new one for 2 minutes, insert the device, and then try and pick up on the same spray path that you just left off. Despite this though, it does have a decent margin for error if you're an amateur like me, and by the time you're on the second coat, you can really start seeing that lovely grainy matte finish that they advertise. But I'll stop talking now and let you take in the final product. Right then folks, there's been quite a bit of work involved, but I can finally say that we're relatively done with the rear end of the R36. I've left it to dry overnight, so this is the completed finish, and I've got to say I'm definitely pleased with the way it turned out. It has that texture like I mentioned, but it's not shiny and tacky looking, especially when you got the light on it. It has almost like a glow. It seems my masking job was semi-decent because I haven't got anything on this heat shield here. Of course, we're going to get the side ones fitted back in. These metal pieces on the end were probably the most crustiest part, but should be okay. The coolest bit is when you stand from back here and just look at it compared to how it was before. It almost has an OEM kind of vibe to it, even though the original color was blue. I've seen some underseals out there that would just put you off the car entirely because of how tacky it looks. But yeah, you can definitely be chuffed with that if you're gonna go for it. It is nice having that bit of peace of mind knowing that the rust is a bit more contained. Ultimately, you can never kill it entirely once things start. There's never really a stop to it. But I've done the best I can and we'll monitor it as the months go on, and hopefully I'll get it on the road in the winter. But yeah, I think this is a good place to end today's episode. If you enjoyed it, drop a like on it. Also subscribe if you are new to the channel. Also follow my Instagram to get updates in the meantime. And yeah, I'll see you in part 4 where we start building this thing back up and show you all the new shiny parts I've got.